Explained by the Billy Meier contacts, mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more, compiled by David Chance, revised July 2, 2025.
Future Earth Humans Part 14. See also Gilgamesh. See also Hyperborea, Hyperboreans. See also Ica Stones. See also Longskulls. See also Men in Black. See also Nazca Lines. See also Nokodemion. See also Ptah. See also Quetzalcoatl. See also Rods. See also Starchild Skull. See also Teos Caves Metal Library. See also Tunguska Event 1908. See also UFOs Flying Saucers.
Contact Report 238.
Quetzal, who has passed all of his tests with bravado and now bears the title of an Jschwisch, about which he is extremely pleased and cannot conceal a certain pride.
It would be pleasant if you could explain to me, actually, why Taljda no longer has returned after our last contact of the 9th of November 1990. In fact, she really wanted to come here again after a short time, but she did not come.
She is very sensitive. Her task at the time was to observe the events in the Gulf and especially in Kuwait. But when doing this, she also experienced the inhumane atrocities of the Iraqi soldiers against the Kuwait population in such a manner that she suffered a severe shock, from which she has up to the present still not completely recovered. Maybe Quetzal will do this trip with you, because he wants to see you as well as my daughter Simya-Se. Until then, however, it may be possible for the two of you to travel with our latest achievement and get to my daughter, with our latest transport system, with a transmitter that has made it possible for us to reach any and even the farthest point in no decompression time, if there is a counter-equipment there, so a transmitter receiving station. Through different relay stations, we can reach any point in the universe. However, these relay stations are necessary because we do not yet have transmitters with unlimited range. Nevertheless, we do not need any time to get from one point to another, except for the time it takes to get from the receiving transmitter to the radiating transmitter and to program the new coordinates of the new target. But even this programming by station will soon be a thing of the past. And so will the switching from one transmitter to another, because soon it will be possible to program the final destination at the output transmitter, and the individual relay stations will automatically carry out the next programming together with the onward transmission, so that no more time is required for this either. Over the next 3 years, our scientists should be able to put into operation a transmitter apparatus that no longer requires relay stations, but has an unlimited range and is designed in such a manner that the transmitter can radiate a receiving transmitter to any and even the farthest target in the universe, where it materializes by a certain sequence of impulses and in which all goods and materials, forms of life, etc., radiated to it materialize. At present, however, a chain of relay stations is being created which itself extends into the Dal universe, making it possible to reach the Dal universe from Era with a delay of only 14 minutes. With this technique, you would be with my daughter Simya-Se in less than 25 minutes if we add the flight time from Earth to Era. I have very extensive knowledge of both the First and Second World Wars on the Earth. There is probably no section in this respect to which I could not give you exhaustive information regarding any questions.
From Simya-Se, I know that not only Earth humans have alcoholic beverages, but also you, even if your brews are only similar to alcohol.
By alcohol-like products, we only mean products and beverages that have an alcohol taste but contain no alcohol, or only so little that the values are far below those that are usual on Earth for alcohol-free beer. The taste of our alcoholic beverages and products is the same as that of the alcoholic products common on the earth. However, this is certainly not surprising when one considers that we use almost the same manufacturing processes for these alcohol-like products and beverages as are used on the earth for the production of alcoholic beverages, only that our manufacturing processes and the necessary equipment are refined and much more advanced than those of Earth humans. It should also be noted that, during the production process of beverages and other products, all the acids that are responsible for fermentation or the production of alcohol are removed, either completely or down to a tiny residual amount, from the start of production. In this way, both fermentation agents and other substances are thoroughly removed and the desired product is obtained. Of course, other measures are also needed because it is not only a matter of removing bacteria and acids, but also of changing chemical structures, etc.
As far as I know, you influence the climate and the weather only as far as it seems necessary or given for plants, animals, and humans. So, for example, that you regulate excessive cold or heat collapses, prevent hailstorms, contain dangerous storms, prevent rainfalls, which would bring floods and great damage, regulate and tame volcanoes, and more of the like. Is that right?
This corresponds to our customs. All the peoples of our federation are committed to respecting the laws of nature and to allowing natural climatic processes, etc., to run their course. We do not influence the weather in the form that we would design it according to our personal desires. We only intervene where there are threats to land, plants, and human and animal life, as you explained earlier.
But I am not telling you, Ptah, anything new as a physician, although I would like to point out that you are just as well trained in this subject as Quetzal. Do you also use such drugs? See interferon gamma, see health and medical information.
In extreme cases, yes, but otherwise we do not take it as an actual medicine, but as a preventive, that is to say, prophylactically, as a daily food supplement. Our coordination of the anti-substance is dosed and adjusted to the individual person in such a manner that no more diseases appear. The only evil to which we have not yet been able to come to terms with is the common cold, which we only succumb to when we are on the earth. In this respect, we are now in the process of clarifying the exact need for us, according to which we will then also be immune to the earthly cold, which should be the case in about 2 months.
On Earth, electron power plants would have to be built instead of lousy nuclear power plants, and that medical scientists would also have to get behind the problem of electron medicine. Because through certain electronic influences, etc., not only any disease will be cured, but life can also be prolonged for centuries. Together with the salubritacin, see interferon gamma, see health and medical information, it should be possible to reach the same Methuselah age as you. Apart from that, these energies would also be able to cope with the enormous environmental pollution, because then no more diesel and petrol coaches would pollute the earthly atmosphere, because electron-drive vehicles on land and air would become a matter of course. If Earth scientists are clever enough to really fathom this inexhaustible source of energy and make it usable for humans, then all the problems of pollution would be solved. All kinds of factories and productions would be operated and carried out only by the application of electron energy, and even necessary insecticides and herbicides, etc., could be replaced by means of electron-energetic form, etc., and so on.
You are unbelievable, because you say everything that is customary in our country.
I have been asked on several occasions whether you also have the evil that your eyes get worse with increasing age, or that you have eye diseases that impair the quality of vision.
Fortunately, we have not known these evils for thousands of years.
Fine. Then you will not have any glasses or contact lenses anymore. Did you ever need them?
Of course, but we have not needed them for a very long time. Because for thousands of years we have not had any eye diseases or deformities due to signs of aging, which does not just apply to the eyes, but to all organs of the body and to the entire body.
And how did you hold it then with glasses and contact lenses?
Eyeglasses were common among our peoples for a very long time. But we refrained from using contact lenses at a very early stage because it was recognized that they were very harmful to the eye and especially to the cornea. Not only were such contact lenses breeding grounds for inflammation-promoting bacteria, but the fact that corneal inflammation and clouding, as well as cataracts in the longer term, were caused, discouraged us from using contact lenses at an early stage. For this reason, fluid preparations were developed to replace such contact lenses before the way was finally found to preserve the eyes of humans through a healthy lifestyle and preventive measures as good as 100% in their vision. This also applies to the love and thanks of the entire Druan population who joined our federation a few days ago.
Druan population? Are you talking about the Druans, who on the 8th of April 1983 gave us the great spectacle with their spaceship, which we could observe in the eastern direction in the evening sky? You are talking about the same Druans who reside on the planet Druan of the System Knoll in a galaxy that is about 1.7 times larger than our Milky Way, and that is more than 300 million light-years away? Is your speech really about this? Note: see Contact Report 184.
That is what I am talking about, my friend. You seem to be very happily surprised. You may be too, because I still have special and very dear greetings from Sana equals who loves the vastness, Ektal equals who rules things, Lumia equals the Grand Master, and Turs equals guardian of the word.
But I was instructed by you and by the Druans to remain silent about it. On the other hand, I had to enlighten them in the teaching of the Spirit regarding certain things, which led to the fact that I also had to mention your mission and also your federation.
Of course, you had to keep quiet about it, that is right. But your explanations led the Druans to get in touch with our federation and to ask for admission to it. After years of efforts and negotiations, etc., this wish was fulfilled. The alliance took place 4 days ago.
So do you know the history of the SOL system?
This is one of my many fields of knowledge.
That almost sounds like Skrill. But surely there's no connection to the dimension from which the supposed dimension changers come, those brutal and bestial Skrills that sometimes attack humans in their greed for sex.
The term Skrill means aus Artung, to get very badly out of the good human nature.
Aha, then they are thus called the Ausgearteten.
This is so, but we also call them dimension changers, as you already mentioned. But the term Skrill means ausgeartet only for us, because truthfully the Skrills call themselves Skrill, which means dimension changer in their language.
Without a doubt, these Skrills are human beings, even if they are completely vicious, brutal, and bestial and incredibly sex-hungry, males as well as females. The horror of these differently dimensioned beings is only that they are completely Ausgeartet and capable of switching from their dimension to other dimensions, whereby they then attack and rape human beings in the other dimensions. It is a good thing that this does not happen very often, and that human beings of other dimensions, such as our dimension, can only clear and pave the way for these Skrills through psychological misconduct. By this, I mean that these Skrills can only penetrate into other dimensions, and work there if other human beings of this dimension clear the way for them by self-destructively driving their psyche to malfunction and thus psychical collapse. I know all this from Quetzal, who also explained to me that you only know about it because some of your scientists once succeeded in connecting with these skrills and experiencing their way of life and all the trimmings. But now tell me, is it also known to you or your scientists when the first human life formed in the region of our Milky Way?
I can serve you with some information about that. According to our research and according to the information from the Arahat Athersata level, the first humans, in their original form, came into being on the oldest planetary systems nearly 28 million years ago, after which, then, about 27 million years ago, the first physically recognizable humans emerged from them quite certainly as the life forms named hominids, which, however, first appeared very much later on the Earth.
And therefore that means that, until now, no human life forms whatsoever in our Milky Way system could have developed as far as those only in the form of the fluctuating High Council. Not to mention also then being able to enter into a higher level, as, for example, in the Arahat Athersata level. As is generally known, it indeed takes 60 million to 80 million years until the form of spirituality is reached, which leads to the Arahat Athersata level, which comprises the first pure spirit level. But now, since the entire knowledge out of the storage banks was not exhausted, which corresponded to the intention, naturally some soon broke through again, and over 8 billion, later corrected, 8 million years later there was again, as ever, a stink. Not only that an Jschwisch, god, Jah, king of wisdom, created the Ring Nebula in his megalomania, which has since then been named the Eye of God, but his most distant descendants finally also came to Earth and terrorized this world here, and so on, which, at any rate, as a rough measure happened essentially for the first time only 389,000 years ago, when one disregards those deportations and conquests and other skirmishes that go back to around 20 million years ago.
Indeed, I knew that you know the connections.
I wanted to ask you something else, but it had slipped my mind again. It is about the multi-duplicators. When Nokodemion built up his robot armies and his android armies in his time, he did so in a manner that still seems utopian to today's Earth human. Because he built a multi-duplicator for this purpose, which multiplied everything he programmed with an atomic blueprint, etc., infinitely many times in absolute unison. Thus, Nokodemion actually only needed to construct one copy of each type of robot, as well as one copy of the androids, after which he could multiply them in infinite numbers using the multi-duplicator. Even the tiniest atomic detail of the final product resembled the prototype, which served only as a perfect model. In fact, such a multi-duplicator is a giant apparatus that produces clones. In other words, one could also say that it is a copier or duplicator that provides an exact copy of the original, not only the externally visible, but also the interior, down to the last and finest atomic structure. The question is whether you also have such multi-duplicators, which are based on electrons, which are based on their operation with regard to the required energies, but also with regard to the required matter for the multi-duplications to be generated. If I remember correctly, then the unexhaustible cosmic electron seas are tapped in order to transform and form the necessary matter from the electrons, from which then the templates programmed by atomic images receive their material form and are materially duplicated.
This wonderful invention of Nokodemion has remained with us. Even if today everything has been changed and renewed to such an extent, precisely in accordance with the inevitable progress that nothing points to its origin. We have been producing all necessary building materials of all kinds, machines, robotic tools, androids, and also medicines and food, etc. in this form for thousands of years by duplicating them.
But you also have gardens, orchards, vegetable gardens, etc., as I know.
Certainly. What we can gain from nature in a natural wise, we work out together with nature in a natural way but always in such a manner that neither nature nor the planet nor the fauna or flora suffer any damage.
You really breed meat as just the product you need, so you never have to kill an animal life form.
That is correct. But we do not only produce meat from cell tissue by breeding, but also from our multipliers. Other things also belong to it.
Why is my name not correct?
According to the word value, your name is completely correct.
Well, yes, I suppose you also make all the metals with the multi-duplicators. Because if I remember correctly, Sim Yase told me in 1975 or 1976 that you were extracting the basic materials for metal production from the realms of the planets, etc., in order to convert them, which would result in lead first, and then all the pure metals or alloys required. At that time, I did not think about it any further, but in the meantime, the idea came to me that you would get the necessary raw materials for certain metals or alloys directly through the multi-duplicators, in order to process them in cold processes in order to create special alloys from them. Perhaps, I could imagine, you get the ready-made metals and alloys directly from the multi-duplicators, which duplicate all matter in cold processes according to given atomic image patterns. Of course, a multi-duplicator could also be called a cold processor, even if the human being on the Earth may misinterpret this, because for them a processor is something else, namely a central part of a data processing system, which contains the arithmetic unit and the control unit. Do you call the apparatus a multi-cold duplicator in your own language?
The meaning of your word roughly corresponds to our name. In any case, everyone here would understand the meaning of your newly created term. For our part, we have a community of independent worlds or even a union of sovereign worlds, which we call a federation, as it is in and of itself the case on the Earth. Such microsponges can also be used for many other purposes if they are soaked with the necessary substances, for example, as an insect repellent or as a deterrent to dogs or predators. And what is probably the most important thing? Such microsponges can be used as drug carriers and applied to the skin, where the corresponding active ingredients penetrate through the skin into the body and trigger the necessary reaction. This can be done both in a preventive form and as an acute factor against inflammations, infections of all kinds, diseases, and as an anti-pain agent, etc.
Fantastic. Do you also use such microsponges?
They are a component of our medicine, among many other possibilities.
Contact Report 239.
So then, the first question. Do you know the word faun? A plurality is called fauns and otherwise faunus.
Certainly, the word faun is a term that was already known in the ancient Lyran languages, and today it is also known in our languages and is also common on the Earth. A faun is a horned and goat-footed, sexually lascivious life form whose original form once came from a very distant world from the Andromeda Galaxy to the Earth and lived on it for about 700 years and drove their lustful nuisance.
Then the next question. When women or men paint their faces, use lipstick, paint their eyebrows, apply blush, etc., etc., for what reasons is this done? And do the women also do this with you? Even though I have made no such findings, it could still be possible. That with you, for example, hair is colored, I know this from Simyase, and also that eyes are colored with certain colors.
With us, this has other reasons than with the Earth humans. Hair, for example, is not simply dyed with ordinary dyes, as this is also the case with the eyes. Rather, it concerns medical ingredients that have very specific properties. Unfortunately, it still also happens with us that human beings suffer from headaches or from sensitivity to light. These evils are prevented by the fact that in the case of susceptibility to headaches, The hair is treated with certain active ingredients which can be dyed, after which the hair then delivers the necessary active ingredients into the cerebral cortex, by which means no further headaches will appear for a long time as long as the hair can still deliver the active ingredients. It is the same with the eyes, into which the substances that can be dyed are instilled, which reduce the sensitivity to light, whereby the ones afflicted with the evil become normal-sighted. However, cosmetics and beautifying makeup, etc., are not usual with us among both sexes. It just came over us, and so we took your revolver. 44 Magnum and enough ammunition, 240 rounds, and set off for a few days to a world that is still rather primitive, on which primeval animals still actually live, including dinosaurs. Quetzal and I alternately wore your belt. Of course, we would not shoot at the animals, but we just scared them if they came too close to us. Much to our regret, I have to admit that we were not prepared for the effect of the firing apparatus, so neither Quetzal nor I, because with the first shot, the same mishap happened to both of us.
It was probably such that the gun flew out of your hand and on its own, right?
Unfortunately, yes, because with our weapons and work tools, we have no such problems.
Do you mean that your weapons, etc., do not generate any recoil?
That is correct.
But at least it was fun for you. Was it, so to speak, a vacation getaway?
We took a 4-day vacation for it. A time that we will never forget. Quetzal and I, we can now understand your adventurous life and your sense of adventure.
Nice, I am happy for you. Maybe now you can, here and there, take a vacation of the same type and in the same manner?
We have planned for that, yes.
Splendid. And you see, I once told you that even old age does not keep one from crossing the line every now and then, from experiencing adventures and freaking out. But why in three devils' names? Why did you hide my belt after your adventure in the porch furniture, so that it could rot? The primitive atmosphere had added quite a bit to it. Jacobus needed 2 days to clean it and to bring it back in order.
We thank him for his efforts, but it was not our intention to cause damage. We did not personally return the belt and the shooting device to the place where we had fetched both, but we transported it back by our corresponding apparatuses. It must have happened that the place was not selected correctly. For this mishap, I would like to apologize.
Here, I have a question about the tree's elimination into the past. See Contact Report 16. Can you explain this process in more detail, at least in relation to what into the past elimination actually means?
The process is that every single atomic unit of the object to be eliminated is dissolved retroactively from the moment of elimination, whereby any relevant unit changes into non-existence and dissolves into pure energy.
Does that mean, if I understand correctly, and if I can correctly express myself as a layman, that every single atom of an object to be eliminated is dissolved from the present into the past, even up to its origin, and is transformed into pure energy? Energy that would actually have to consist, then, of a certain form of electrons. For I assume that there is not just one type of electron in creation's structural plan.
I have nothing more to add to your explanation because by and large it meets with reality.
So, my friend, and now I long for a good drink. Although I already drank a small glass tonight, I still feel like a second one. If I may perhaps also offer one to you, I would be tremendously pleased. It is a peach wine with very low alcohol content, but which I can still drink without difficulties, without it affecting me somehow. What do you think, Ptah?
I am not entirely at ease with your offer because, as you know, we only drink alcohol-like drinks, but not alcoholic drinks. Therefore, I do not know whether the drink would be good for me.
It will surely agree with you, because if I can drink it, in spite of my many medicines, without it harming me somewhat, then it certainly will not harm you in any wise. The wine only has 9% alcohol by volume, which is as good as nothing. You just have to drink the wine slowly and in small sips and over longer periods of time. You may need 20 or 30 minutes to do it calmly.
Since you are so sure and because I have full confidence in you, I would gladly like to do this once and drink a glass of this wine with you. Ah, this is really very good, and it is also refreshing. This music that you are playing there, it has a lot of resemblance with our music.
It is the chorus of the Hebrew slaves from Nabucco by Giuseppe Verdi.
It is well known to me, like also many other melodies that you are playing. Only do you not think that the music is a bit loud?
Certainly, but this is intentional, so that no one can overhear us. In the other office over there is Eva, and also the night watch is underway.
That is why I also turned on my device as usual. Otherwise, it would not be possible, unfortunately, that I could be in here with you.
For how long do these small swinging wave defense devices guarantee enough security, such that you are protected?
I own the latest device with a guaranteed security function that lasts for 7 hours and 54 minutes. This wine is really excellent, Edward. May I ask you to refill my glass half full?
Of course, with great pleasure. I am very glad that you like it. Just make sure that the alcohol does not rise to your head.
I thank you, my friend. You do not need to be worried, however, because I cannot notice any signs of an influence of alcohol which could have been triggered by the wine. I know very well how alcohol works because all of us, who had or have to do things on the earth, have conducted alcohol tests through which the effect is well known to us, even if we have still never taken alcohol to ourselves.
Interesting. We should also be able to perform such tests, even with drugs, etc. How are such tests carried out with you then?
Through psychovision of a psychophysical form.
Aha. You already explained something about that to me once, but you said that I may report nothing about it, at least in terms of that which it concerns, for there is the risk that the Earth scientists would immediately take up this possibility and would inflict the most serious harm to people.
But this drink is really excellent and very refreshing. Maybe I will ask you later for another bottle if you permit it.
Contact Report 240.
The question refers to transplants in the sense of how you actually produce them. From earlier explanations, I know that if necessary, you grow transplants with cells that you make grow. How does this happen?
In the earliest times, cell cultures were created for all newborns who were feared to be in need of some kind of transplant one day. The cell culture technique, in this regard, referred to taking cells from those organs or parts of the body that were most likely to be susceptible to disease, etc. From these cell cultures, the transplants corresponding to the prerequisites were cultivated, exactly according to the chronological sequence of the life of the person concerned, whereby the cultivated transplant was always of the same age as the person concerned, to whom the cell cultivation transplant belonged. However, this form of transplant cultivation was very limited to those human beings in whom it had been recognized in younger years that they would one day need a transplant. Unfortunately, this disadvantaged all those who suddenly needed a transplant due to some kind of illness, etc., which could not then be cultivated. Consequently, our researchers and scientists looked for ways and means to solve this problem as well. One day, The solution was to obtain the necessary transplants in such a form that the necessary cells could be taken from a human at any age and cultivated in the shortest possible time, so that the necessary transplants were available without difficulty. But the most important thing was that a process could be carried out whereby each transplant showed the same signs of aging as the cells removed from the human, so that the transplant was the same age as the human who needed it. However, our scientists were not satisfied with this achievement in any wise, but rather they explored other possibilities, which they then found in the fact that they could use the dot.
Considered the possibility of simply reproducing the necessary graphs by means of cold processors using atomic templates.
Yes, that is exactly what I wanted to say with the same words.
So you are saying that today, you are generating all the necessary transplants, should they actually be necessary, through multi-duplicators.
Certainly, that is the meaning of my words.
Bernadette also thought along those lines. But I think that it will no longer be part of your everyday life that transplants have to be done, will it?
That corresponds to the actuality.
Well, if it is necessary, then you have the advantage of the cold processor possibility that you can produce transplants that are absolutely in harmony with the immune system of the person in question who needs these transplants. So there should be no defensive reaction, should there?
That is right.
Contact Report 241.
I would desire a sip of peach wine if I could ask for it.
But certainly, that is not a question. Wait, here, a glass for you and one for me. Now I will get the wine, which I put outside to chill, because I myself drink a glass every now and then, if I feel like it. Well, here I am again. If you allow me, I will pour it right away. You know, I thought to myself that you would certainly like to have some bottles of this wine. That is why I also provided a box of 6 that you can take with you. How did the wine taste with Quetzal, by the way? But now, cheers.
For the good, just refreshing. Well, when Quetzal heard from me that I had tested the wine together with you, found it to be very good and received another bottle from you as a gift, he could no longer be deterred from tasting the bottle I had brought with me to him.
A huge tasting, a whole bottle like that, I would like to say. And did he find the wine as good as we did?
Certainly, he found it as refreshing as we did. Just take French cuisine as an example, whose composition is often absolutely inedible.
I know that when I think of rice casimir, which is seasoned with pineapple, or other dishes where meat dishes are mixed with berries and fruits or seasoned, then I feel sick.
The nausea also rises in me when I think about it. If you want, I can request our research results in this regard. Then be patient for a moment, concerns himself with a 5 by 10 centimeter device he takes off his belt.
Several years ago, you were still talking about the fact that towards the end of the 20th century, Earth would be visited by extraterrestrial people, who would then officially make contact with Earth humans. Through all sorts of bad machinations of Earth humans, however, it then emerged that this extraterrestrial visit would no longer take place, and therefore no such contact would take place. Are the facts today still as they were when you told me that such a contact had no chance anymore?
Things have changed fundamentally again in the meantime, by all that has changed in the meantime, in political form in many countries of Earth. A lot of positive things have come about, and the prospects for such a contact have increased by a great deal, so that the old plan can come true again under certain circumstances, whereby we ourselves or any other forces from our Federation have no connection whatsoever to those human beings who are supposed to establish official contacts with terrestrial people, and whose knowledge and ability, in every respect, will not yet have developed to such an extent that they understand all things that are peculiar to us in terms of knowledge. They will also not yet be able to grasp our dimension in which we live and exist. And with regard to the teaching of the Spirit and creation and their laws and commandments, they will also not be developed according to our state. If the contact with these alien beings one day comes about in official form, but this is still questionable, then this means for us and all our allies that we then withdraw and keep away from Earth in every form, whereby we will then only maintain telepathic contacts to you. If the mentioned contacts actually take place, but what is really questionable for the next decades, then Earth humans will enter into connections and alliances with Earth strangers, into which we may interfere according to our laws in no case and under no circumstances. This means that we must then withdraw into our dimension and no longer be active on Earth.
Then it is certain that these contacts with aliens will take place?
At present, the overall situation points to this. But the next 6 to 8 years can again change a lot, because Earthman is so unstable and fickle that in the long run everything always floats in the air and in the unknown.
Another question concerning the events against the year 2000, when aliens are supposed to approach the terrestrial people. Is this something that has already been determined? And if so, how will it happen?
My explanation already went to the effect that such an event will only take place if the overall situation of earthly politics and the efforts of all human beings develop in such a way that such an event can occur. Even if at present everything points to the fact that what has been said could take place, it is in no way certain that what is positive on Earth and among terrestrial human beings will actually take place in such a way that the event can take place. The fickleness of Earth humans is simply so great that not much can be predicted for a nearer or later future. In order to be able to give such predictions of the future in precise form, we would need the effort of looking at the future. But we don't want to do these, for which you know the reasons. If it can be avoided, then we refrain from this kind of exploration of the future.
Of course, can you tell me? However, whether human beings from otherworldly worlds will otherwise visit Earth in such a way that they will be recognized by terrestrial humans, without the aliens being harassed by authorities or the military or by any madmen, or even endangered their freedom or their lives. Is it therefore possible that even before the year 2000 alien astronauts will come to Earth, with whom Earthlings will perhaps be able to make secret contact, as is the case with you in a similar or identical form? I mean between you and me?
Such occurrences could very well occur, both in this century and in the next. This form of alien appearance is more possible than that of official contacts with authorities and the military. Space travelers are usually extremely cautious and take certain protective measures into account if they do not make themselves known officially.
Doesn't that contradict what you said a few minutes ago? That possibly even before the year 2000 foreigners could get in touch with earthly authorities, etc.
No, this is not the case, because I explained clearly that this would only be the case if the overall situation on Earth would change in such a way that such an event could become possible. Even though a lot of positive things are happening at the moment, this is by no means a guarantee that people on Earth will continue to do so. It can very well be that everything will soon be negative again because Earthman is just unsteady and fickle. However, this has nothing to do with the fact that non-earthly people from other worlds cannot nevertheless land on Earth in this form in a secret way and move among Earth humans without being recognized, or that they are only recognized by a few, who, however, remain silent about it responsibly until the space travelers have left Earth again, so that they cannot be hugged by madmen authorities and the military, etc. It will be more difficult for all those who crash or are forced to make an emergency landing due to an accident of their spacecraft. Because their technology does not yet correspond to the form that such incidents would no longer occur. Such crashes and emergency landings have occurred on Earth since ancient times and will continue to occur in the future, albeit very rarely. But this must always be reckoned with, especially for spacecrafts whose technology has not yet been developed in such a way that no more damage can occur. The crews of such crashing spacecraft usually suffer death, while there is a high chance of survival during emergency landings. The crews of such emergency landed spacecrafts, however, are usually helpless and are not able to carry out the necessary repairs on their missiles, which makes them planet-bound in the world where they crash. The rule is also that they cannot survive or that they are captured in the most mild case, etc. When they crash on worlds whose inhabitants are still barbaric, such as the inhabitants of Earth. Of course, there are many other barbaric humanities on foreign planets, whose inhabitants simply kill crashed space travelers, or often worship them as gods and then do not let them leave again as such.
Contact Report 243.
We, too, once had to fight the same problems that we could only control by precisely these facts as I have named them. With that, I am also referring to the peacekeeping troops according to Enoch's system, which also embodied a form of world police by which the entire organized criminality, both in its small and large form, got destroyed.